few of the other cognitive biases or brain tricks that I like to talk about. First one is the fundamental attribution error. This is the idea that we give ourselves excuses for things. Like if I was walking down the street and I accidentally bumped into Cam and I was like late for an interview, or my grandmother just called and she slipped and fell. Like I have a reason why I was so rude and I bumped into him. I didn't even apologize, right? I have an internal excuse. But if Cam bumped into me, I'd be like, what is this guy? Who raised him? What a jerk. I mean, it's because he's from this town, or it's because he's this gender, or because he's this race. We use external things that we can observe and know about the person to explain their behavior. And yet for ourselves, we never do that, right? So make sure that we do not give ourselves those excuses, and make sure that we don't assign external reasons to people. We need to go in there and find out, hey, Cam, this morning you bumped into me. You didn't even say you're sorry. Hey, what's going on? Are you okay? And he'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. I found you. Oh, it's a great conversation, right? To find out what's really going on. If I just blamed it on him being, he's just always late, or he's just an insensitive, whatever, right? I don't have the real story. And this really trips people up at work. The next one is the halo effect. And this is the idea. So this is why Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie and all these movie stars appear in brands, right? We assume beautiful, successful people, if they wear this watch or they wear this shoe or they carry this purse, it must be good, right? That same idea transfers into work. If someone did a really good job on a project, we assume they can do a really good job on another project. And that may or may not be true. There are very few people who are good at everything, right? I don't think if I've actually met anyone who's good at everything. And so we have to be careful not to overwork our A players or people who are doing a really good job in an area, right? We want to make sure we give other people the opportunity to do work. And also to ensure that we do not elevate people or promote people just because they dress nice, just because they wear nice makeup or do their hair well, or whatever physical attribute you can say. That doesn't make them good at their job. Physical appearance doesn't make, this is why tall people tend to do a little bit better in life, good looking people, because we just naturally assume that they're good at it, and that's just not true. So we have to be careful about the biases that can come from that type of thing as leaders. And then the last one, I always notice this happen a lot with middle managers and people new to a team, and one called the availability heuristic. And that is that recent news seems to get more weight than things they've already learned. So that recent study that says drinking 9 cups of coffee will save your life, like you read that article and you're like, well, that must be true. That's better information than the last time I read an article that said if you have too much coffee, it's going to cause you to get cancer, right? How do you deal with that? So new information should not be necessarily put above existing information. Now, the new information could counter old information. That's different. But just because something is new, just think about it. You're at a party and you learn something new. That's what you bring up, right? I read an article recently, or I saw a painting recently, or I heard this new song. It's like whatever's available in our brain that's new, we tend to rely on a bit more. And that can be dangerous and that can be problematic. So we really need to make sure that we can think about that to do better inside of our organizations. Let's see how we're doing on time. We're doing pretty good. So inside remote and hybrid, there are a couple things that I suggest you do. Now, first one is to stop having one-on-one meetings. Hands down, the most effective thing you can do if you are remote or hybrid is to stop doing one-on-ones. Maybe you have to do it sometimes. Maybe there's some HR thing. Maybe someone's really, their grandmother did pass away and you're going to go have a private conversation. But in general, most of your meetings should be with 5 to 7 people. Say, but Chris, I'm supposed to be coaching people on their goals and helping them through stuff on my team. Great, do it as a group. I have my senior leaders all together. I coach them together. We talk about, and they help each other. They know what each other's goals are. They know what they're all trying to achieve. And they're all helping each other achieve those goals, not just me helping that one person. And then my other team not knowing what the other person's supposed to be doing. How problematic is it if I tell the customer service person, these are your goals, and those goals don't line up with sales, and they don't line up with my research team, and they don't line up with operations? If they don't have that clarity, you're asking customer service to do this thing. There's no way they can do that and us do this other thing. They're conflicting. So that really helps us as a team meet our goals. Also, 5 heads are better than 1, right? And ultimately, someone's going to have some sort of an experience that I don't have to help someone, through those types of scenarios. We want to stop having long video meetings. So if you need to have a long meeting, it's cool to be on video for some of it, but I think it's cool to turn off your video and eliminate some of that tiredness by having the camera on all the time. I read something recently. Okay. I read something that a study that talked about how seeing all the movement of video actually triggers the same part of your brain as if you were sitting in the out in the, middle of Africa somewhere, and you were worried a tiger was going to come and sneak up and kill you. That same part of your brain that's scanning for movement in a dangerous situation is the same thing that's being triggered when you see all these movement of video on the screen. That's why your brain gets tired when you're on long video meetings, because it's triggering an old part of your brain that's concerned about safety and movement. So turn the video off sometimes. It's okay. It's good to have it on, but don't have it on for too long. And then really curate your meetings. We talked about this earlier, but always start on time, always end early. So there's a thing called Parkinson's law. It's another brain trick. If you set an amount of time to do something, it will probably take you that amount of time to do it. If you say, I want to achieve this goal in a year, it will probably take you a year. If you say, I want to achieve that goal in 6 months or in a month, right? You can do things differently. So if the meeting is set for 30 minutes, always try to end early. Don't pull that meeting out. Don't stretch it out full of junk just so it can be a 30-minute meeting. 30 minutes is the time we have set aside. Can you get done in 15 and 20? Give people the gift of time. Let them go back and get more things done. It is so powerful to end meetings early. And then no agenda, no meeting. There's not an agenda in there. Even if it's a one-item agenda, I decline it every time. And I'll have new employees come to me, you keep declining my meetings. How can I get on your calendar? I'm like, by putting an agenda in there, remember? And they're like, oh, that's right. And we have to train them and teach them and help them. But no agenda, no meeting. And then we want to create some clear signposts for people. So what kind of meetings do we need to have when we just check in, right? What's going on? How are we doing? What are we working on? That's like a team meeting, like maybe sales has a stand up every Monday at 9 a.m. When do we check it, right? When do we collaborate? So when are we actually going to talk about things and figure things out, right, more strategically? When are we going to brainstorm? What kinds of meetings? When do we come together to dream about big ideas and innovation? And maybe this client has this really big issue, and how do we figure that out, right? That's a different kind of meeting. And then when do we blow off steam, right? When is that meeting? Is that Fridays? Maybe Fridays at 5, we all get together and have a cocktail. I don't know, whatever your company likes to do. Maybe it's Wednesdays. Maybe it's a hump day trivia. We do a hump day trivia, on Wednesdays at 1:30. And we have this wonderful lady who comes up with new trivia questions every week, and everyone does trivia. And we keep track of the winners, and she actually gives away an award at the end of the year who has the most trivia wins. That's how we blow off steam in our organization. For you, it might be different, but you got to figure that out. And then when do we, and fill in the gap. So, whatever that is, just fill in the gap of whatever makes sense.